Hello and welcome to CEAZOR Snack Sandwich. Today we're going to take a look at this bonding curve token protocol. This is pretty interesting to me. I'm not sure if it's going to succeed. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future, but I do think it's definitely interesting and worth talking about. So I spent a little time today and yesterday reading through the documentation and trying to get a good understanding. And before I get into actually explaining what it is, I will mention that this video is kind of sponsored by the protocol themselves. They gave me some, money to basically stake into the protocol, and they paid some of my gas so that I could take part in this. Not a lot, but just a little bit, and I feel like it's worth it. I did look at the protocol before I accepted the idea, and I thought it was interesting before I accepted the sponsorship or whatever you want to call it. So let's go inside and take a look at what they have inside here and what this idea is. Don't spend too much time looking at this because it's probably brainwashing you to put your whole bag inside there. Anyhow, but let's go inside and see. Let's go down into here. So here's basically the idea of the token itself. Now, if you take a look at, a lot of DeFi tokens, they tend to do this, right? Like at first they get pumped in price, and then the price tends to go down quite a bit and then kind of ride the bottom. There's a lot of DeFi tokens that do this, not all of them, but a lot of them do. Of course, stablecoins have to stay the same. And then you have blockchain tokens like, Ethereum and stuff. They're quite volatile, going up and down, but generally in an upward way. But there's quite a bit of volatility in there. But this BRC token is designed to be a pretty tight curve, and you'll see how it works when we go through the docs and so forth. Some of the things that make this important is that it's fully reserve backed, and there's like some intrinsic value to the token itself. It's not just a token that is backed by like faith or by adoption. So there is some other tokens in the back of this token. So you'll get into that when we go through and talk a little bit more. So this is basically what they're taking right now. Is the current reserve asset is DAI. So they will take DAI into the system, and they will use that. You basically use DAI to buy the BRC token, but the price of the BRC token from the system keeps getting more and more and more expensive on the curve. So every time someone buys the BRC token with DAI, they're putting DAI into the system, and they're minting the BRC token, and then that new BRC token is always being backed by more and more and more DAI. Now, one of the things that do make it very appealing is the APR is quite high, and I'll show you actually inside the doc, or inside the app, what the APR looks like inside there. There is a two-token mechanism, which I will talk a little bit about now, which is quite important, and that is there is a BRC token, which is the token I told you, which is this token that you buy with DAI or some other coins in the future. And then there's the reward token, which is the GBRC token. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll show you a little bit more about that in the documentation about BRC. And then when you stake both of them, you get a lot of APR. And again, when I get into the docs, and it's got some audits and stuff from Certec and Consensus and stuff, so that's pretty good. And then it's got all its math. If you want to, really geek out and go into the math and so forth, then you can do so. So there's this one article. There's quite a few articles. I would suggest you to read some of them and go through them, but you can kind of get a good idea just by listening to me. But I would definitely read more and do your own research, and don't take this as financial advice. This article here, I read through this, and it's kind of like an explanation of it. And there's something in here that kind of sets me off a little bit. There's all this talk about like what's wrong with crypto today, and it talks about all these issues with all these different tokens and so forth. However, I don't understand. The one thing I don't get is like, if there's all these issues with all these tokens, then why are they using DAI, which is backed by USDC, to be the reserve currency for this one? So, that's a little bit of a strange one, but, they have to back it by something. So backing it by DAI, I guess, is a good choice. People would debate that on your own, and I'm sure other people will have different opinions about whether or not DAI is a good backing for a token or not. So let's take a look at the app here. So as you can click, you can see I have my assets, and I do have some of these BRC tokens staked in here. It's about $500 US worth. And then I also staked some of these at the same time. And now the reason why I staked both of them, if you come here, you have a choice to stake between BRC plus GBRC, which is the reward token, and you have the options to stake with BRC as well. So as you can see, I have put both of them inside, and it quite clearly shows me like, you know, how much I've got of each of them inside there. I've got my withdraw button and everything's ready to go. And it is ticking up quite a bit, quite quickly. Like I've made $34 and I don't know how long I've been staked in here. And as you can see, it just keeps going up. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to make me rich and if I'm going to be able to retire in a month or two, but we'll see. We'll give it a go. I don't mind taking a small risk on this to try it out, especially in my situation, which might be different than yours, right? So let's go into swap. So what does swap do? This swap is where you can buy this BRC token. And so basically you could choose any of these, but it's basically going to zap these into DAI. So I would suggest you get some DAI, and then you just come here and you say, oh, I want to buy this many tokens, however many it is. I don't say I have 2,000 DAI or whatever, and I will get this many tokens, right? So I would take this number and remember it. So however many you have, because it's going to be important in the future. So this is basically how you can buy the BRC token, and you can sell it here. If you have BRC tokens, you can sell it. Now there is currently a mechanism. They're charging a 9% tax on selling. So I wouldn't, put money in here that you think you might need in a couple days or something. Put money in here that you feel like, oh, I'm going to stick in here and I'm going to forget about it, or leave it here and just kind of let it ride, put it on the line, so to speak, right? I would suggest that, but you do you and I'll do me and we'll all be happy, right? So you can buy some with some DAI. You can get that number that I told you. So let's say I wanted to put $2,000 of DAI. I would get this number and I would be okay. Now, why do I need this number? So I'm going to just copy this number and I go to stake. Now, if you go to stake, now, I said before that you want to stake probably both tokens instead of one token, because this GBRC token is the reward token, but they don't want people to sell it. So they're heavily incentivizing people to stake both of the tokens. Now, if we go to the docs here, you can see that it just gradually goes up. Like if you put it for more time, you get a higher multiplier, right? And if you put both tokens and more time, you get an even higher multiplier. So even like just putting a little bit of GBRC for 30 days is better than putting BRC for 90 days, quite a bit better, right? So it's a very good idea to stake these GBRC tokens with your BRC tokens, and instead of just staking BRC. So you'd want to get both of them. Now, right now, the ratio is set to 1,000 BRC tokens for 1 BRC. So if we go to the staking portal, and let's say we had that number I said, right? I would need 22 of these GRBC tokens. So I would go and make sure I have those at the same time. So buy those from the market. SushiSwap, I believe it is. So let's open that up. So just to make sure, 22.3. So let's just go with 22.32 just to make sure I have enough, right? And then I'm going to cost another $65 or so based on that $2,000. Now you got to remember that there's gas, right? This is going to cost gas. It's probably going to cost more than $65 worth of gas. So keep this in mind. Maybe you want to go a little bit higher than $2,000 here so that it, everything makes sense. That you got to think about this on your own and do a little bit of math here, right? So I would be able to stake both of these tokens and choose the days, stake it, and get some APR for staking these tokens, right? And then when I want to withdraw, I just come here and withdraw as well. Now, I do recall that like withdrawing early will cause you to forfeit any of the earnings that you have or that you should be able to claim. So make sure you choose the time correctly. Like I said, don't put money in here that you're going to need in the near future. So now what I was saying was like the ratio is 1,000 to 1, right? So if you look here, right? Well, let's go back here. And we see that I need 22, which is like 1,000, move the decimal 3 places along, right? So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, right? So why is this important? Why am I mentioning this? Because they're going to change this soon to 100. And it does talk about it here that it may be in the future they will change this to 100. So if you are considering to do this, you might want to consider to do this quickly, because When this changes to 100, you're going to have to buy a lot more of these GPC from the token, from the market here. You'll have to buy maybe, it'll cost you maybe $650 in order to stake $2,000 worth of BRC tokens. Okay, now let's just go back to my assets here. Now this is it's an interesting system in that, like, it's not a farm in the sense where, like, you know, I don't have like, oh, I don't have to come here every day and claim my tokens and stick them in and claim my tokens and stick them in. They're just building up by themselves in here. So this is interesting. Like, it's kind of like auto compounding. I don't have to come here every day and be like, oh, I gotta farm my rewards, and where I gotta put them, I gotta decide I'm gonna sell them or I'm gonna recompound them in. I have to sell half of them to get more, like, or 1,000, you know, I have to like remake this balance. So there's none of this going on. So that's very good, I think. I think that's very interesting, and it's useful for a user who just wants to put some money in here and forget about it. Then you have this analytics page, which is, you know, analytics for the person who really wants to geek out and go deep and find out what's going on and stuff. They do have, you know, just under $1 million worth of DAI backing it right now. So, you know, the treasury is not too huge. It's not a huge TVL, but maybe it will grow, maybe it won't. I think this pretty much covers it. I'm not going to go really deep into everything. Like I said, you're going to want to probably come in here, read these, read all of the features and so forth, and find out, like, you know, exactly what does the governance token actually do. Like I said, it's gonna, you know, give you the higher yields, and it'll allow you to do some voting on some governance and so forth. So I think that pretty much covers it. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.